My name is Zariah Marceline. Last week, I bought a private jet. Not rented, not toured, bought. But when I walked into that sleek, high-gloss showroom, my sister Vera, who works there, saw me first. She laughed, loud enough for the room to hear. "She's just here for Instagram pictures," she told them, all smiles and smugness. And they believed her. They always believe her. It wasn't new. Not really. I've been cropped out of family photos, dismissed at reunions, called emotional, unstable, too soft to lead. My company, a multi-million-dollar tech brand, was always a fluke in their eyes. Luck, not leadership. But what happens when the girl you've mocked for years is the one holding the check? What happens when the one you erase stops asking for space and takes the entire frame? Their laughter still rang in my ears as I walked deeper into the room. It wasn't the kind of laughter that fades quickly. It lingered, cheap cologne on expensive clothes. Overpowering. Unmistakable. I kept walking, spine straight. I refused to shrink. The receptionist, Molly, her tag read, blinked when she saw me return. Probably still confused why my name hadn't shown up on the VIP list earlier. She tried to cover her hesitation with a practiced smile. "May I help you?" "Yes," I said, evenly. "I'd like to speak to your manager. I'm here to make a purchase." Her eyes darted toward Vera, lounging with the sales staff, still basking in the spotlight like she owned it. Vera met my gaze for a moment. That same smirk, that familiar, polished cruelty. "I'll page him now," Molly said. "No need," I replied. "I'll stand." I stood there in the glass cathedral of wealth. Polished tile, sunlight on chrome, leather furniture you weren't meant to sit on. It was designed to intimidate, and it would have worked if I hadn't already survived worse. I didn't check my phone, didn't scroll, didn't fidget. That would look like I had time to waste. I didn't. I had fought too hard to prove I deserved to be seen, and yet here I was again. Vera's little sister, the afterthought in my own story. They didn't know about the NDAs I'd signed, the investors I'd wrangled, the cash flow I'd balanced through economic downturns. They didn't know about the network of women who trusted me with their futures. They didn't want to know. The manager finally arrived. Mid-40s, tailored Armani, sharp smile. "Ms. Marceline?" he asked. I nodded. "That's right. Apologies for the confusion earlier. It seems there was a mistake with the list." "There wasn't," I said. "The list was edited." He blinked, recalibrating. "Well, allow me to assist you personally, then. If you'll come with me." "No," I said, firm. "We'll conduct business here." His smile faltered, just for a second. Then the performance resumed. "Of course." As he walked away to retrieve the documents, Vera approached. Smooth, calculating. She wore the same energy she used when she handed out Christmas gifts she didn't buy, but took credit for. "Well, this is a surprise," she said, syrupy sweet with vinegar underneath. "You're not great at pretending," I said. She chuckled. "If I knew you were really buying, I wouldn't have let them delete your name. Miscommunications, you know how these things go." "No," I said. "You were never good at lying, just good at making people doubt the truth." She flinched barely, a crack in her porcelain smile. Then she leaned in. "Is this your big revenge move? Making a scene?" "If I wanted a scene," I said calmly, "I would have brought the press. Or Dad." Her eyes narrowed. "You always think people are out to get you." "No," I said. "I just finally stopped pretending they weren't." The manager returned, leather folder in hand. "Ms. Marceline, if you're ready." My name was there, correctly spelled, boldly printed. I turned the pages slowly, deliberately, letting her see I understood every word better than they expected. "You're really doing this," Vera murmured. I looked at her. I was always going to do it. Then I added, quietly, "Your biggest mistake was making me invisible, and getting used to not looking." The manager cleared his throat. "We just need your signature." I signed. They laughed when they thought I was a joke. They won't be laughing for long. Inside the side lounge, the air was still, too still, like the quiet after a slammed door. The room smelled of overpriced coffee and lemon polish. The frosted glass kept up the illusion of privacy, but not protection. Everyone could still see me. Vera was out there, laughing too loudly again, smiling that perfect smile. The same one she wore when she thanked me for helping her practice a keynote I wrote entirely. She had always stolen credit like it was hers by birthright. She caught my gaze through the glass. Didn't flinch. No apology. No recognition. Just confidence that the world would keep believing her version of things. But not today. Two salesgirls whispered outside the door. "She looks like one of those influencers," one said. "Probably just wants pics for Instagram." I didn't react. I'd heard worse, especially from my own family. Years of being told I was too emotional, too artsy, too sensitive to handle real business. When I raised my first round of capital, Vera called it cute. That word stuck, not because it was harsh, but because it was dismissive. I glanced at my phone. A message from Monica. Payment processed. You're clear. Confirmation attached. And yes, they'll see the amount. I smiled. Double the showroom's average sale. Not because I needed to prove myself. Because I could. I looked up. Vera hadn't glanced my way again. Not yet. But she would. I remembered the last family reunion. The photo I wasn't in. All of us. It said under the frame in Dad's office. I'd driven hours to be there. And still erased. It wasn't a crop. It was deliberate. So was today. I adjusted my posture. Smoothed my blouse. Let the burn dissolve into resolve. This wasn't about being seen. This was about owning the frame. The manager returned. Clipboard in hand. "Ms. Marceline," he said. "We're ready. And I've been made aware of the oversights in your reception." There was no oversight, I said, locking eyes with him. "You treated me exactly how they wanted you to." He opened his mouth. I didn't wait. "Let's fix that." I walked past him toward the closing room. Click, click, click. My heels on the tile. The sound of reclamation. Vera saw me. Her laughter paused. She didn't smile. Neither did I. Because silence doesn't break me anymore. Now I speak in actions. They won't crop me out again. Not now. Not ever. The closing room was colder than the rest of the showroom, deliberately sterile. Like it was designed to remind you that power here wore suits, not feelings. The walls were high-gloss gray, the table wide and impersonal. A single glass of still water sat at the center, like a peace offering I didn't ask for. I didn't sit right away. I paced once, slow, measured. I needed the rhythm of my heels, the echo of it, to ground myself. Then I lowered into the chair. Fingers laced, back straight. The manager returned and began laying out documents like a ritual. Lease terms, financing details I wouldn't need, service schedules. "You're paying in full?" he asked, even though the screen in front of him already told him so. "Yes." A pause. "In your name?" I looked up sharply. "Is there another option?" His cheeks flushed. "Of course not. Forgive me." I didn't answer. Just slid the document closer and signed. Each pen stroke was a quiet reclamation. Every letter of my name etched into official paper felt like another brick stacked into the foundation of a new version of myself. One no one could crop out. When it was done, the manager rose. "Congratulations, Ms. Marceline. Your jet will be prepped for departure from the private terminal." "Good," I said. "Send the specs to Monica. And make sure the showroom receives a public acknowledgement of the sale." He hesitated. "Do you want us to include your name?" I met his eyes. This time, there was no softness in mine. "Stamp it in gold if you have to, but make sure they all read it." He nodded more slowly now. "Of course." He left the room, closing the door gently behind him. And for the first time that day, I let myself exhale. Not the shallow, polite breaths I'd been surviving on, but a full one, from the bottom of my lungs. Out. I stood again, slowly. Walked to the frosted glass. Pressed one hand gently against it. On the other side, the showroom still buzzed. Vera was there, laughing again. Always laughing. But this time, something in the room had shifted. Subtle. imperceptible to the untrained eye, but I saw it. The sales team had thinned around her. 2 had drifted toward the front desk. 1, the youngest, was clearly checking her tablet, likely verifying the payment that had just come through. And Vera? She was no longer the loudest person in the room. For the first time, she looked unsure. I tilted my head, studied her like she'd studied me all these years. But I wasn't mocking her. I wasn't here for revenge. This was reclamation. And you can't reclaim what you never lost, only what they tried to take. I turned from the glass, grabbed my handbag, composed myself in the mirror, and then I walked back into the showroom. Every step felt different now. Not lighter, not heavier, just real.
Owned. Mine.
Vera saw me approach. This time, she didn't speak. The smirk didn't return. Her mouth opened slightly, then shut again. Her laugh failed her. "Congratulations," she said finally, voice too thin, too tight. I paused, met her eyes. "Thanks. I worked for it." She nodded once, then stepped aside. A gesture of politeness, of concession. I didn't say goodbye. I didn't need to. I walked to the main entrance where Molly was staring wide-eyed at her screen. When she looked up at me, she stood too quickly. "Ms. Marceline, I apologize again." "Don't," I said gently. "Just remember next time." She nodded quickly, the lesson sinking in. I stepped out into the sun. The world outside was just as it had been.
Bright. Fast.
Unforgiving. But I wasn't the same. My phone buzzed. A message from Monica. Deal finalized. PR post scheduled. Headline reads, Tech CEO Zariah Marceline acquires private jet in solo full cash purchase. We included the quote you approved. I tapped to preview the draft. There it was. My name. My story. My words. For every woman who's been told she's too emotional, too soft, or not enough, don't shrink to fit the room. Redesign the room. Zariah Marceline. I smiled.
For real this time.
The kind of smile they couldn't crop out. I walked to the curb. My driver stepped forward to open the door. I paused before getting in. Turned once, glanced back at the showroom. Vera stood inside the glass lobby. She wasn't laughing. She was watching. Maybe for the first time. And I let her. I let her watch as I got into my car, not to prove a point, not to win, but because sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is simply take up space. Without apology. Without explanation. Without waiting to be asked. And as the door shut behind me, sealing off the last echo of that glass cathedral, I didn't feel erased anymore. I felt unstoppable. The hum of the city blurred past the tinted windows as the car pulled away from the showroom. I didn't look back. I didn't need to. My name would echo in that building long after I was gone. I leaned back in the seat, eyes fixed on the horizon. The driver asked if I wanted to head straight to the airport.
No, I said.
Take me to Rosemont Drive. He hesitated just briefly. Your parents' house? Yes. He nodded. As you wish. It was time. The house hadn't changed much. Same red brick. Same manicured hedges. Same wind chimes that always sounded too delicate for how loud this family had been. I stepped out slowly, heels soft against the walkway. Every step forward felt like walking deeper into memory. Memories I hadn't asked to keep but never could shake. I paused at the front door, raised my hand to knock, then dropped it. I still had a key. Of course I did. That's how they liked it. Symbolic gestures of inclusion that never meant I truly belonged. The key turned. The door opened. The scent hit me first. Cinnamon, polish, and lavender dryer sheets. Home. If home could also smell like erasure. Zariah? My mother's voice floated in from the kitchen. She appeared a moment later. Apron on. Face flushed from cooking. Expression caught somewhere between surprise and unease. You didn't say you were coming. I didn't plan to. I stepped inside. She didn't hug me, just wiped her hands on her apron and smoothed her hair, a nervous habit. We're having dinner tonight. Family's coming by. I know. She blinked. You do. Vera posted the invite. I figured since I was in town, I'd drop in. Silence. The kind of silence that follows a truth no one wants to deal with. She turned back toward the kitchen. Well, you're always welcome here. No, I'm not. But I let her lie. The table was already set. Long, polished, formal. White napkins folded into fans. Place cards at every setting. I walked around it slowly. I found mine near the end. Tucked in the corner. Not quite invisible, but close enough. Old habits die hard. Vera's was at the head. I picked up my place card. My name was misspelled.
Zariah.
1 H short. 1 identity less. I didn't react. Just pocketed it. Mom walked in, carrying a pitcher of iced tea. I hope the jet situation went well, she said carefully. I raised an eyebrow. You heard? Well, Vera mentioned something. Of course she did. She said you were buying or looking. We weren't sure if it was real. I finished for her. She didn't answer. She didn't have to. I looked around the room. Framed photos still hung where they always had. Smiling faces, group shots, Vera in graduation robes, Vera at galas, Vera cutting the ribbon at some charity event I helped fund.
Me?
A photo from high school. Still tucked into a corner. Slightly crooked. Still a child in their memory. I bought it. I said finally.
The jet.
She turned, blinking.
Oh.
That's all. I didn't know you were doing that well. I smiled tightly. You never asked. The doorbell rang. The house filled fast. Cousins.
Aunts.
Old neighbors. Everyone smiling, hugging, chatting. And then Vera walked in, center of gravity as always. Hair perfect. Voice just the right mix of warmth and volume. She kissed Mom's cheek and beelined straight to the living room. I didn't approach. I stood in the archway, watching. She saw me. She smiled.
And waved.
Like we were friends. Zariah, she said, arms out. You made it. I walked forward slowly. The room hushed a little, not fully, but just enough. I did, I said, despite not receiving an invite. Must have been an oversight, she said smoothly. You know how email filters work. No one laughed. Not this time. She turned to the group. Did you all hear? My sister bought a jet. Polite gasps. Eyes turned. You serious? One cousin asked. Vera jumped in before I could respond. She's doing big things now. I mean, I always knew she'd find something she loved. I tilted my head. You didn't think it was real. What? The company. The product. The team I built. You called it a phase for years. She hesitated. Zariah, I was joking. We all joke. You also joked when you removed my name from Mom's retirement dinner speech. The one I wrote. People were staring now. Jokes, she repeated, nervously laughing. We're family. No, I said. We're not. Not the kind of family I needed. Not anymore. I stepped forward, reached into my bag, pulled out the signed certificate, the ownership record of the jet. My name, Zariah Marceline, bold at the top. I handed it to Mom. Frame that, I said. Maybe put it next to the Thanksgiving photo you edited me out of. Gasps now. Real ones. Mom's hands trembled. Vera's mouth opened, then shut again. I'm not here to fight, I said. I'm not here to make you feel bad. I'm here because I needed you to see that erasing someone doesn't make them disappear. It just makes their return more powerful. I turned, walked toward the door, and paused. I spent years trying to earn a seat at this table, I said, without looking back. But I've built my own now. Bigger, stronger. And it has space for people who don't flinch when I shine. No one followed me. No one stopped me. The silence behind me wasn't the old kind, the kind soaked in dismissal and discomfort. This one was heavier. This one came with reckoning. Outside, the air was cool. Evening had settled. The world felt quiet. But inside me, a storm had passed. And in its wake was something beautiful. Stillness. I'd always thought my story needed their approval to be valid, that I needed to fit into their frame. But they never deserved to hold the camera. And now, they never will again. I stepped into the car, closed the door, and said just one word: home. Something about the sound. Clipped. Confident. I didn't need to hear the words to know the tone. I'd grown up with it. Syrupy sweet. Always delivered with a polished smile that made people laugh without realizing they'd just watched someone get cut. Vera knew timing. Whether it was school plays, birthday toasts, or boardrooms she didn't belong in, she knew exactly when to enter the spotlight. She made insult look like intimacy. She had a gift, and it was always used at my expense. My jaw clenched. I remembered a networking gala years ago. A big one, sponsored by a top-tier accelerator I'd fought my way into. I'd built the deck from scratch, rehearsed until my voice cracked, revised the pitch between 3 a.m. coffees and sunrise panic. Vera offered to tag along for support. Instead, she showed up in a black blazer, shook hands like a co-founder, and introduced herself to the sponsors with my slides behind her. She'd tweaked them. Fonts were different. A new cover page. Her name listed first. I watched from the sidelines as she delivered my words with her face. Afterward, I confronted her by the valet. She didn't flinch, just tilted her head, glossy lips curved. "I packaged it," she said. "You made it usable." Usable. I didn't respond that night. I was younger then. Afraid of burning bridges, I didn't yet realize I was never allowed to cross. But I remembered. And now, she was doing it again. Different setting. Same script. A more recent moment came back to me. Aunt Lainey's birthday lunch. Susan from Rancho Bernardo had pulled me aside, her smile falsely maternal. "Zariah, honey, just so you hear it from me first. I heard someone say you're dating that investor. Not exactly pitching with PowerPoints, if you catch my drift." I knew who it was. Across the room, Vera was sipping champagne like it was currency. I didn't confront her then, either. Back then, I believed success would outshine rumors. I was wrong. Back in the present, I stood up. My body moved before my brain caught up. I walked straight out of the glass-walled lounge. She didn't see me until I was 2 feet away, mid-sentence, mid-charm, mid-performance. "Vera," I said, voice sharp. The group turned: executives, clients, sales reps, some familiar faces, some not. Vera turned slowly, her smile ready-made. "Zariah, everything all right? You didn't like the room?" I stepped closer. "You've taken my voice once," I said, calm but cutting. "You won't do it again." The group froze. Her smile faltered for half a second. Then came the practiced laugh. "I'm not sure what you mean." I leaned in, low enough that only she could hear. "Next time you try to erase me, remember who's holding the check." Her laugh died in her throat. I let the silence hang, then walked away. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt ready. She played to the crowd. I came to close the deal. The signing room was staged like a luxury brand's Instagram feed. Chrome accents, polished glass, pens that probably cost more than my first apartment's rent. I sat near the window, letting the sun stretch across my hands. There was power in stillness. The manager entered, noticeably more careful now. Gone was the overconfident lilt. "Ms. Marceline," he said, tone respectful. "We appreciate your patience. I'll walk you through everything personally." "Let's begin," I replied, cool and clear. We went page by page. Asset liquidity, compliance clauses, tax implications. Every time I spoke, I watched his posture shift. I wasn't what he expected. They never think you're the decision maker when your sister has the shinier resume and louder laugh. Then a young staffer entered with a slim black folder. "Gala sponsorship documents," she said, with a final press kit. Gala? I hadn't agreed to sponsor any event. I opened the folder. On the back page, under gold tier sponsors, was my company's logo. Lumira Financial Solutions. Crisp, centered, bold. I flipped through the attached email thread. There it was. Confirmed. Lumira to appear under gold tier sponsor. Proceed. Vera Crisa. My blood turned to ice. Again, she stole my brand. I stood so abruptly. The chair scraped behind me. "Is there a problem, Ms. Marceline?" the manager asked. "I need a moment." Before he could offer to escort me, I was already gone. Vera was pretending again, laughing near the espresso bar, two older men captivated. She always did this, float between circles, leave no fingerprints. "I need a word," I said. She turned, that fake sweet tone sliding in like velvet over a blade. "Oh, I'm just in the middle of. Use my name one more time without permission, and I will tear this showroom down from the outside in." Her smile stayed, but her eyes didn't. "Come on, Zariah. It's just branding. Exposure. It helps you too." I stepped closer, voice low. "You've stolen my work, my words, and always counted on my silence. But I'm not that girl anymore." She rolled her eyes. "Don't be dramatic. People don't like a scene. Neither do I. That's why this is private. Be grateful." And for the first time I saw it, not fear, not guilt. Uncertainty. She didn't know who I was anymore. That made her nervous. "You can be the face of a lie," I said, "but I own the truth. And I'm done being quiet." The manager reappeared. "We're ready for the final signature," he said. I didn't look away from Vera. "You've had your turn," I said. "Now watch how I close." Back in a room, the staffer mistakenly handed Vera the folder. "Primary signer?" "That's right," she said, smiling, until I slid the cashier's check across the table. "Actually," I said, "I am." The check landed with a soft but final thud. Power doesn't always roar. Sometimes it whispers with paperwork. The staffer blinked.
Oh,
"Yes, apologies." Vera's face didn't move, but her silence? That told the truth. I flipped through the documents and signed them. A man walked in with another client, unplanned. He glanced at us and lit up. "Oh my God. Are you the founder of Lumira? My wife listens to your podcast every week. She's obsessed." Vera lifted her head, half nodded, smile forming. "Not her," he said, pointing. "Her. That's Zariah Marceline, right?" I smiled. "Tell your wife thank you." Outside the glass office, I stopped at the front desk. I pulled out a small black recorder.
click.
Vera's voice filled the showroom. "She's just here for pictures. She always needed attention." Laughter followed. Then, "She probably thinks a hangar is where they park her influencer deals." Silence fell like a curtain.
Staff turned.
Clients turned. A young assistant whispered, "Wait, they said that about her?" I walked to the sound console near the welcome desk and played the audio again, clearer, louder. Then I pointed at the screen looping behind the front desk. "Zariah Marceline, jet owner, tail number 7221. Next slide. Vera's headshot with the tagline, "Confidence you can count on." The room absorbed the contrast. Old illusion, new reality. A journalist finally stepped forward. "Miss Creasa, do you endorse those remarks?" Vera faltered. "I think there's been a misinterpretation. I didn't stay to hear the rest." I walked straight down the center aisle, past marble fixtures and frozen stairs. Just before the exit, I turned. "Thought I came for a photo?" I said, voice calm. "I came for the frame." And I walked out. One week. No interviews. No press reports. Just wind whispering through like not to show off. To remember, I didn't need their seats anymore. I built my own table. A courier approached. A thin envelope. No sender name. Inside, 2 photos. One, the family Thanksgiving picture. The original. The one I've been cropped from. The second, same photo. But this time, I was in it. Fully. No blur. No head tilt. Just me. A note scribbled in Dad's handwriting. We didn't see it then. We do now. I didn't cry. I didn't need to. Because this wasn't validation. This was afterthought. I'd already written my name in bold, sealed in ink, stamped in jet metal. As I boarded the plane, my phone buzzed. A message from Noel. "I resigned. Just wanted to say thank you. You made me believe we can say no and still survive." I smiled. The engine started. Next stop, Chicago. A room full of first-generation women ready to be heard. They once told me I was too emotional to lead, too soft to win.
Now,
I fly under my own name. The ballroom was nothing short of grand. Crystal chandeliers glittered above rows of white chairs, and soft jazz hummed through the overhead speakers as women filed in. Entrepreneurs, founders, mothers, visionaries. Some in suits, some in sneakers. All with stories. I watched from backstage. The event coordinator gave me a quick nod. "You're up in 5. Anything you need. Just water," I said softly. But what I really needed couldn't be poured into a glass. I needed to remember who I was before they tried to erase me. The Chicago Women in Wealth Forum had invited me 3 years in a row. I declined each time, not because I wasn't ready, but because I didn't want to stand behind a microphone and talk about success when I hadn't yet taken back ownership of my voice. But this year, they weren't asking for feature music. They were handing me the keynote, and not just any keynote, the closing keynote, the one that lingers in people's minds as they fly home, clutching notebooks full of dreams. From backstage, I could hear the announcement. To close today's session, we are honored to welcome a woman who redefined what leadership is. Founder and CEO of Zariah Marceline, starts to light and builds into real. I stepped into the light. They clapped louder than I expected. Some stood. Some smiled like they already knew my story, or had lived a version of it themselves. I adjusted the mic, and I began. They always said I was too quiet. The room fell still. At school, I didn't raise my hand fast enough. In meetings, I didn't interrupt loud voices. At family gatherings, I was the helper, the one who stayed behind and cleaned while others toasted. And because I didn't speak over people, they assumed I had nothing more to say. I paused, scanned the faces, heads nodded. What they didn't understand was that silence isn't absence, it's observation. And when you've been underestimated long enough, you learn how to build everything they thought you couldn't without their applause. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the room. I built a company in gas. While they praised louder women, I raised capital behind closed doors. While my name was propped on family photos, I filed trademarks. While they shared stories about how I was leadership material, I employed 50 women who filled the same. I let it rain, and then, one day, I bought a friend. Laughter, warm, surprise. Not influence, not influence. But because the day I walked into a showroom and they didn't even check the list for my name was the day I knew I needed to start writing it down. Applause now. Real. Earned. You've been made to feel small. I know you have. Maybe in boardrooms. Maybe in kitchens. Maybe by people who loved you with conditions you never agreed to. But let me say this as clearly as I can. Your silence was never weakness. It was strategy. And you don't owe them noise. You owe yourself power. I stepped back from the mic. The room stood. A sea of women, clapping, crying, cheering. I didn't cry, but I smiled. The kind that stayed. Backstage again, a young woman approached me. Early 20s. Nervous. "Ms. Marceline, I wanted to thank you. I was told last year I wasn't polished enough to get messages. I almost gave up. Then I found your podcast." She hesitated, pulled something from her bag. A business card. My startup's launching next month. I thought maybe you'd like to see it. I took the card. Read the name. Meeting portfolio. Founder. Selena Ray. I'd love to. I meant it. That night, I skipped the afternoon. I wasn't completely complacent. I walked instead, along Lake Michigan, heels in hand, wind curling through my coat. I thought about all the rooms I'd once been in. How many I'd built in my head just to survive, the ones I was shut out of. And now I own the blueprint. Back at my hotel, a package waited for me. No return label. Hand delivered. Inside a book. Not just any book. Leading While Woman. A bestseller I ghostwrote the majority of for a prominent tech executive 3 years ago. One of Vera's friends. I was paid. NDA. Forgotten. Inside the cover, someone had scribbled a name. You wrote this. You just didn't sign it. Time to stop hiding. No name. But I knew the handwriting.
Noel.
I sat down at the window, overlooking the city, and reread it. Then I picked up a pen and wrote my name inside the cover. Zariah Marceline. At the airport the next morning, a young girl stared at me from the security line. She whispered to her mother and pointed. They both smiled. As I boarded my jet, I looked at the name on the side. Marceline Holdings. It wasn't just my name. It was my truth. Uncropped. Undimmed.
Owned.